Hi everyone, welcome to another Tuesday edition of Financial Talk with me, your go-to personal and business finance coach. So a few weeks ago, I talked about how to avoid money problems in your marriage. And today I'm going to be taking that topic a step further. And I'm going to be talking about what happens when you don't have that financial talk or financial plan prior to getting into a relationship. So it's a term that I'm sure that many of you may have heard about or maybe even experienced, and it's something called financial infidelity. Okay, so what is financial infidelity? Financial infidelity is when a spouse knowingly conceals information about their spending habits, especially when it's excessive, is incurring debt, has a secret savings account, has maybe money stashed somewhere, or maybe even have multiple credit cards. Okay, so this is the definition and what really constitutes financial infidelity. So why do people feel the need to keep financial secrets from their partners or spouses? Well, there's several reasons, but the three I would say most common reasons are: one, that there is a lack of trust, okay? And that lack of trust could stem from, an experience that spouse may have had with their partner. It could stem from an experience they may have had in a prior relationship. It could stem from an experience that really has nothing to do with money. It could just be a general lack of trust because of an experience they've had, with someone about something else. Another reason, a second reason, is a fear. It could be a fear of having to lose something you've worked very hard to achieve. It could be fear that person, I find that lack of trust and fear sort of related, okay? It could be a fear that person may end up doing something to disappoint you, and because you're afraid of what may or may not happen, okay, you start to hide information. It could also be, another reason could be that the person has ulterior motives, okay? And this one I find is common nowadays, and it's when people marry for the wrong reasons. People nowadays, a lot of people that marry because of money, okay? They see somebody who's doing, seemingly very well, and then they decide to get married. There's nothing wrong with that if the other person knows that that's why you're getting married to them, But, if you go into a marriage with ulterior motives of wanting to seek wealth or get rich quickly by marrying this person, oftentimes it leads to financial infidelity, okay? So, how do you begin to identify financial infidelity? What are some of the things that you can look out for? What are some of the red flags? Well, one is if you notice that your spouse is suddenly withdrawing cash, okay, excessive cash from your account, whether it's your account or a joint account. I wouldn't even recommend a joint account if you haven't had that money discussion with your spouse. I would say do not set up a joint account, okay, because you don't have ground rules, you don't have a financial plan, you don't have financial goals, so it's not really a good sign to do that right off the bat without having had those conversations. So one is if you notice the excessive cash withdrawals, okay, from your account. The other thing is if you start to notice that your spouse suddenly is making new purchases of maybe electronics or clothing or whatever the case may be, new purchases that does not tie up to sort of your financial, your income as a couple, okay? And in line with that is if you notice that your spouse suddenly has a habit of, going off and starting new experiences, maybe traveling, or maybe going to the movies alone, or maybe dining out, it could be a sign that there's something going on in terms of your money situation. Another thing is that if you notice that Maybe your financial situation or income, something is going wrong, something is amiss, and you start to bring up that conversation, or you try to bring up that conversation with your spouse, and you're not getting anywhere with it. They become defensive. That could be a red flag. There's financial infidelity going on. Another thing that could be a red flag is when you notice that your spouse is suddenly buying you gifts, expensive gifts, or taking you out, and again, it doesn't tie back to your income. Sometimes when people feel guilty about something that they're doing, they tend to want to justify it. So it could be a way for that person to justify that spouse. So that could be a sign. Another thing that could be a sign is if you notice that your spouse is telling lies suddenly to maybe family, friends, or family, close family or friends about the true status of your financial situation. That could be a sign that financial infidelity is going on. So what do you do when you notice, or you're able to confirm that in fact your spouse is committing financial infidelity? So what you want to do is start off by forgiving your spouse. I know it's hard. It may not even sound realistic. I know. But that's what you need to do in order to give yourself the peace of mind to be able to start to address the situation. So what do you then do after forgiving your spouse, okay, is that you approach them in a peaceful manner. Again, I know it's hard to do, and I know that it may not be realistic because we're all humans and we tend to get angry when we find out such things, okay? So approach them in a way that is peaceful. But I would say you should also have some kind of confirmation that they've in fact committed financial infidelity, because no matter how hard you try, you forgive, you approach in a peaceful manner, some people are just not going to come clean. So you want to be able to let them know and convince them that, look, I know for a fact that this is what's going on. Then the next thing you might want to do is suggest some kind of complete financial audit on both of your parts, okay? Full transparency to sort of give the person the comfort, okay, to be able to speak openly about what may be going on or driving that behavior. Okay, say, I'm willing to share my financial situation or statements with you. I'm willing to be completely open if you're willing to do the same. That way you cover a lot, and that way the person may not feel that they're being judged, okay? The fourth thing you might want to do is then come together and do what you're supposed to have done in the beginning, which is to come together and, create a financial plan, set out a budget and create life goals, future financial goals for yourselves as a couple. That way the person feels like they're part of, you guys working together towards achieving something, whatever that future goal is. It could be, the purchase of a home, it could be whatever, but set some goals that are shared goals, okay, financial goals, so that both parties feel that they're part of the process. And it may be, again, something that would motivate the other party who has committed the financial infidelity to sort of, refocus, okay? The last thing I would say, if you've done all these four things and it's simply not working, because sometimes you try and you can't get through to some people, then maybe it's time for you guys to try counseling. Just like when you have to go to a marriage counselor when there's infidelity, you can also go to a marriage counselor when there's financial infidelity, in order to get to the root cause, and in order to have like a third party, a neutral party, start to help you address the underlying cause of the financial infidelity, okay? The last thing I would say, so those are some of the things that you can do. The last thing I would say, in order to avoid financial infidelity altogether, do what I said, a few weeks ago, is that have that discussion, right from the get-go. Normalize having that money talk. I know it's a taboo in a lot of societies and even in relationships. Even today, all of us as learned people, sometimes we just cringe when that money, discussion comes up. But normalize that discussion, okay? Because sometimes you might discover that that person, while a good person, may not be right for you and for the financial goals that you set for yourself. Okay, sorry I had to rush through the last few seconds, but that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, please share with your friends, your family, your business colleagues, okay? And I hope that you apply all these principles, or if you're trying to discover what's going on in your relationship, I hope that you find these principles helpful. And until next time, enjoy the rest of your week. Bye now.